Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video it's going to be very grapple dominant gameplay. So if that's not something you'd want to see, I understand, but this video was requested by a subscriber on the Petr Yan video, where I show how Petr Yan's the best anti-wrestler in the game. And a subscriber called Jimmy asked for me to upload more grappling orientated gameplay, and that's what I'm going to look to do with these 3 clips today. And what I would like to do, if you guys would like to see, is I'm going to go over every position on the ground and rank it from most dominant to least dominant, and tell you what you guys should be doing in those situations. And in this gameplay in particular, I'm not going to be looking at too much how I take people down. It's mainly how, once I get them to the ground, what I look to implement, and a lot of that is side control and how to hold that position, maintain it. And I just talk you through what I do. So in the first gameplay clip, we're in Division 5 facing a Hamzat Chimaev player who's in Division 9. And as you can see, I'm still in Division 5, and I'm having a lot of issues lately where opponents are just quitting after I win. I think I've had 27 fights and 23 wins, and opponents just keep rage quitting, so I'm stuck in this division. I've beat Division 20 players, I've beat Division 15 players, but I'm just not going up. So as you can see, straight away I shoot for the takedown, and obviously when you get a match up with 2 wrestlers, one of 2 things can happen. You're either going to have an extremely wrestling dominant game, or the exact opposite, because both of you counteract each other. And Yoel Romero is better on the feet, and I believe better on the ground than Hamzat, so I could have kept it on the feet if need be, but I wanted to implement a very strong wrestling gameplay early. So as you can see, I took my opponent down, and I'm just going to look to control my opponent, his position over submission. I'm going to look to implement damage where possible, and mainly I want to maintain this side control position, because after you start denying a couple transitions, you start picking up on your opponent's habits. And this is the key thing you want to do when you first get into this position. After your first deny, you're going to look to see how your opponent reacts, and often or not, I don't throw an elbow straight away. What I do is I throw a knee. And you want to throw your strikes systematically. You don't want to throw them in a rhythm. So you don't want to throw one elbow, pause 2 seconds, another elbow, pause 2 seconds, because your opponent's going to pick up on that habit. And by picking up on that habit, it will make it easier for them to get out. And I know that my opponent in this situation has 3 options. Obviously, they can get to sprawl, they can get to half guard, and some players have the ability to get out from going to the right. So I always pre-deny get into the sprawl, because I want to stay in the most dominant position. And as you can see, I make the mistake there of posturing up at half guard and trying to throw strikes at my opponent. My opponent does a very good job of reversing that position, and as you can see, I'm staying calm here. I'm faking my transitions, and I'm looking to deny my opponents. You see, I'm starting to pick up on my opponent's habits of where they're going. We get to the backside, which is another extremely dominant position, and my opponent right now is just doing anything to get to the feet. And once we get into this position here, I'm going to look for another takedown, which is exactly what I do. As you see, I'm just remaining very, very calm. I get the deny here because my opponent went that way the first time, and I could have gone for a submission here, but like I said, position over submission. And now we end up in top mount, which top mount can be an extremely dominating position if you look to get off the right deniers. As you can see, I deny my opponent getting up from there. And what it is you've got to have the knowledge of where your opponent's going to go. You've got to know, okay, my opponent likes to get up here. You've got to memorize all the transitions, and once you do that, you can just become like, you can just maul people. And it doesn't matter how good someone is, if you get them on the ground and you know all the transitions and you're confident within your ability, then you're going to be extremely dominant. And one thing people underestimate is you don't just need to be dominant whilst you're on top of your opponent. You need to be dominant off your back as well, because if you're going to initiate a very grappling heavy gameplay, you will at times get reversed and you will be on your back. So you've got to be just as comfortable on your back as you are on top. So that was an extremely dominant first round, and the one good thing with grappling is if you're very dominant, you're going to rack up the control time, and by doing so you will win the rounds. And if you control your opponent for about 4 minutes and they don't do much damage, then it could easily be a 10-8 round. So grappling, it means of success is very high, because you can grapple your way to a decision. And that's why a lot of the times I don't like these 3-round fights, because a lot of people implement, they hug you for 3 rounds, just lay on top of you, like I said, position over submission, and using that they then win the fight on the scorecard. So you don't come up against too many grapplers often. I just don't think people are as confident to grapple. But once you learn how to dominate on the ground, and like I'm saying, I think the side control slash crucifix is probably the best position. Once you master that, you're going to start dominating and mauling opponents. So as you can start second round, my opponent's pressuring me a lot, because obviously the last round was clearly mine. I was just extremely dominant and racked up a lot of control time. So right now my opponent's pressuring me very, very hard, and as you can see, he's pressuring me towards the cage, and I rotated away for a second because I knew my opponent was going to look to clinch and take me down. I end up getting the better of this exchange and stunning my opponent, and I've noticed that my opponent keeps putting his head back. As you see, I'm trying to work the takedown from the clinch. We're shooting these takedowns, and my main aim here was to drive my opponent to defense. So we get the deny there, and I'm really looking to secure this takedown. As you see there, we get the turning takedown, which is the same takedown we got in round 1. And this is another thing you should look to do, is memorize where your opponents go, what takedowns they can and can't deny. Just as you can see, at the start of this round, I was trying to use different takedowns and my opponent was denying it. And as you can see, go for the Kimura, which, like I've said in many videos, is my favourite submission by far. And once I lock that submission in, it's pretty much game over. I think it's one of the strongest submissions in the game, to be honest with you. And here we've transitioned to another gameplay where I'm using Kamaru Usman versus George St. Pierre, another very good grappler, very balanced. Obviously Kamaru's got the buff recently to the hands, so he's used more frequently. We take my opponent down, get to side control, and this is just going to show you how dominant this is. Look, deny, stay patient, an elbow, deny, deny. And as you can see, my opponent's starting to panic, and once I get into crucifix, this is how dominant this is positioning. I mean, my opponent's panicking, doesn't know what to do. And here, if I had the submission with Usman, I would have gone for a submission finish. But as you see, I'm not rushing to get these elbows in, taking my time, draining my opponent's stamina, doing all the right denies. And as you can see, now I'm starting to sneak in the elbows, and this is extremely frustrating to play against. My opponent here obviously is losing his head, constantly trying to get out, and it's obviously just not going to work for him. And as you can see, I'm not letting up. I'm not giving my opponent any chance of getting out here, and just dominating. And as you can see, posture up, and we get the finish. So that's just another example of how good the crucifix can be in side control. And now we're switching over to Division 6 gameplay with Vettori. And I think it's against Robert Whittaker, who's obviously, in my opinion, it's not even close. I think Whittaker is the best fighter at middleweight. Extremely balanced. And he just seems so broken compared to everyone else. And I was using Vettori just because he's getting the next title shot with Izzy. I'm not a big fan of him personally in real life, but obviously he looks to grapple, and that's what I wanted to do. So I was going to try to implement a very grapple heavy gameplay on this Robert Whittaker. So as you can see, I'm being patient, I'm waiting for when to shoot my shot, and I'll film another video talking about how I go for my takedowns, when and like how I pick to go for. And as you can see, the teep kick ends up pushing Robert Whittaker to the floor. From that, we drag him to the fence, and then we get the beautiful turning takedown right into side control, which is my favourite position to be in. And here, as you can see, I'm just going to look to dominate. I'm just going to look to get off the deniers. My opponent gets to the sprawl here, and here you've just got to remain comfortable. There's only a certain ways they can go. They can go left, right, or up, or to get up, or go half guard. They can also drag down, which is to get side control. And as you can see there, I flipped my opponent, work right back into side control, and we're just going to do more of the same thing. We're going to look to pick up on patterns. We're going to look to deny. And when you're grappling and trying to maul people, you've still got to be very patient, because a lot of time I come up against fighters, especially in the lightweight division, using Habib, because obviously Habib is so dominant and so prolific, and when he's on top of you, there's just not much you can do. He can submit you, he can just ground and pound you to death, and that's what these opponents try to mirror. But often or not, they get too aggressive and end up losing that position. So the key thing is you have to choose when to be aggressive. Like right now, It's position over submission. I'm just looking to remain, get this control time, and if a finish is there, I'll go for it. As you can see, my opponent makes the mistake there of elbowing with a hand that was wrapped on my neck, which then allows me to posture up, and because I have the stamina advantage, I can move straight into side control, and this is exactly where I want to be. So we get my opponent here in the crucifix, deny, and as you see, my opponent's trying to fake, but like I said, I'm just going to remain calm. And here I think Vettori does have the submission, which I like, the Americana. And if you have the submission from here, if you're good at submissions, it's going to be over. And so we get my opponent in the Americana, and we're going to get the finish. So this video is just showing you a bit about how and why I use the side control. The side control is just so dominant, especially when you get to the crucifix. So I hope this has done a good job of showing you how dominant this position can be. Again, if you'd like to see a video where I break down in detail the top positions on the ground, top submissions maybe, I can make that video. You've just got to let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more grappling orientated gameplay, just let me know in the comments again. But yeah, these were just 3 short clips. I think the video is only going to be around 12 minutes long, and it's just to show you how dominant grappling can be. And it's not so much to show you my takedown selections and stuff like that. It's more to show you how, once I get my opponent to the ground and inside control, how I dominate those positions. And with this, you can have great success. I've beat plenty of players using this, and it's something that people aren't grappling as much as they should be. So yeah, hopefully this video has given you an insight to that. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.